We continue now at the top of Daf Kuf Lamed Beis Amud Beis in Meseches Bava Basra. This is Bava Basra Daf 132b. On the previous summit, the Gemara brought a Mishnah in Meseches Peah, which says that if a husband writes over all of his property to his sons and gives a small amount of land to his wife, so then she has been mochel the rights to collect her ksuba from that property. And the Gemara on the previous Amud gave the opinions of various Amoraim in terms of why exactly we assume that she was mochel, that she forgave her right to collect her ksuba again from that property. And the Gemara now continues, Umikule ksuba shanukan. These are of the leniencies when it comes to ksuba. What the Gemara means to say is that ksuba is different than other obligations in this sense. The Rashbam explains, Umikule ksuba shanukan, akulukai. This is going on all the various explanations of the Amoraim on the previous Amud. Whatever explanation you give, the point is as follows: the shar balei choven, when it comes to other creditors, lo avdu bekachat sheyomru beferish, they don't lose out their rights to collect until they say explicitly anu mochlin hashibud shalan nechasim halalu, that we are forgiving the shibud that we have on this property. We're giving up our right to collect this property. Aval b'chsuba, when it comes to ksuba, hekilu, they're lenient when it comes to the husband, meaning we assume a mechila much easier. She doesn't have to say beferish that she's being mochel the shibud. It's more automatic. There's other leniencies as well as far as inferior property. As is explained, the reason in Meseches Ksubis, the Yoser Mishaish Rotza Lisa, Isha Rotza Linase, because more than a man wants to get married, a woman wants to get married. Therefore she's pleased with any amount. Kid Reish Lakish, like Reish Lakish says, the woman says to herself, Tav Lameitav Tandu, Milamesav Amalu, it's better that I be with a companion, it's better that I get married rather than be alone. Aval Shar Bal Chov Sha'osa Tova Lalova, but when it comes to other creditors who are doing a favor for the borrower, Lo Mekilin and Gabe, we're not so lenient. The Vishvil Shu Osa Tova, Ein Lo Le'avet Bechinam, just because there's some Tova that's being done is not a reason why the person should lose out. It's specifically by Ksuba that we say we assume a mechila without hearing it beferish. That's the point of the Gemara. And the Gemara continues to Nan. We learned in the Mishnah in Meseches Peah. This is the end of the very same Mishnah in Meseches Peah that was quoted on the previous Amud. Rabbi Yossi says, Im kibla alef, she accepts it, afal pishalo chasavla, even though he doesn't write it for her of the ksuba, so she loses out on her ksuba. And the Rashbam explains, Hachi Garsinan Tanan, Rabbi Yossi Omer, Im kibla alef, afal pishalo chasavla, again, if she accepts it, even though he doesn't write it to her, of the ksuba, so she loses her ksuba. V'seifa dahachi b'Meseches Peah. This is the end of the very same Mishnah in Meseches Peah. The Rashbam then goes on to say a girsa that we don't have, and the explanation is kibla aleh. What does it mean that she accepts it? It means shemachla lehem hashibud beferish. It means that she forgave the shibud explicitly. In other words, Rabbi Yossi is saying if she explicitly says that she forgives her shibud, she's not going to collect her ksuba from the property. So then of the ksuba, so then she loses out on her ksuba. And now the Gemara says mechlal. So that implies if Rabbi Yossi is the end of this Mishnah in Meseches Peah, it implies that the Tanakama should be arguing directly with Rabbi Yossi. So mechlal, it implies the Tanakama savar, that the Tanakama holds ksiva v'kabola boy, that we need both that it be written and her acceptance. And the Rashbam explains mechlal deshame Rabbi Yossi l'Tanakama. From what Rabbi Yossi is saying, it's implied that Rabbi Yossi heard the Tanakama say de boy kabola gemura im haksiva, that besides for the husband writing over the property in the fashion that he did, again the case was that he gave over the property to the sons and then he gave a small amount of property to the wife, but besides for the ksiva, you need to have a kabola. You need to have her explicit acceptance. And that's why Rabbi Yossi is responding, it's not true. You don't need to have both acceptance and ksiva, you only need to have the acceptance. And the Rashbam continues, because if you're going to say the Tanakama was just saying you need ksiva, it just needs to be written over, and that's really what the Amoraim on the previous summit, that's how they explain the Mishnah, because they said you just simply have a case where he gave the property to the sons, and then he gave a little property to the wife, and then for various reasons we assume that she forgave the shibud. But if that's what you're going to say, so Hachi Hava Leila Rabbi Yossi Lamemer, so then Rabbi Yossi's response should have been, Afa Pisha Chasav lo of the ksuba, el imkain kibla la, even though he wrote it for her, but she doesn't lose her ksuba unless there's a clear acceptance that she's forgiving the shibud. V'kasha l'chol hani del'el. And the point is that the Gemara is asking from the seif of this Mishnah Meseches Peah on all of the Amoraim above, Demuki lemil say b'shosakas shelo nisratzes beferish, because all of the Amoraim in the previous Amud, they explain the Tanakam of the Mishnah as saying that she was silent, and in some way we interpret her silence, whatever each Amora said, but for whatever reason we interpret her silence as meaning that she was mochel the shibud. But now it sounds like from Rabbi Yossi's response to the Tanakama, that the Tanakama was saying, no, you do need Kabbalah. You need to hear explicitly that she forgave the Shibud. The Amoraim should have said that the case is there was a clear acceptance together with what was written down. Dekonami, the Katani Sefer, Rabbi Yossi Omer V'chulu, and we'll prove this from the Sefer of the Mishnah, from what Rabbi Yossi said. And so that's why the Gemara is saying again, Mechlal the Tanakama Savar Ksiva v'Kabbalah boy. It sounds like the Tanakama is saying not only do you need the Ksiva, but you need the Kabbalah as well. And the Gemara continues, V'chitema. Now, if you're going to say, Kula Rabbi Yossi, maybe you'll answer that the beginning of the Mishnah is also Rabbi Yossi. We're misunderstanding the Mishnah. Rabbi Yossi is not arguing with the Tanakama. Rabbi Yossi is the Tanakama as well. And the Rashbam explains, V'chitema kula Rabbi Yossi, v'hashmi'inon reisha, and then what would be happening is that the beginning of the Mishnah would be teaching us the v'chsivas karka kol shehu l'chud of the ksubah, so that when he writes to her in this whole arrangement, he gives her a little tiny amount of land, that alone causes her to lose her ksubah. V'hashmi'inon nami b'seifa, and then the end, Rabbi Yossi would be teaching us, the end of the Mishnah he'd be teaching us, dim kibla afal b'shalochas avla, that if she explicitly accepted those terms, even though he didn't write anything to her of the ksubah, she would lose her ksuba. The oha, if you said that the entire Mishnah is Rabbi Yossi, it's either or. Either it's the fact that he wrote it to her in this fashion, or the fact that she explicitly said that she's mochel the shibud. Oha, boy, you need one or the other. Umishum devechsiva lechud mayri reisha itzrichu letrutze masha tirtzu. And because we're talking about ksiva alone, so that's why the Amoraim had to say what they were saying, because again, if you're going to interpret that it's all Rabbi Yossi, the beginning of the Mishnah is saying ksiva alone, and then the question is, why does ksiva alone, why does that mean that she's mochel the shibud, that she can't collect? And the Amoraim give it various interpretations of how her silence shows that she accepts these terms. So if you're going to suggest that, again, the reish of that Mishnah is Rabbi Yossi, that's not going to work. As the Gemara now continues and explains, Va'atanya, because we learned in a Brisa otherwise. Amar Rabbi Yehuda says, and Rabbi Yehuda here is giving an interpretation of the Tanakama of this Mishnah Meseches Peya. Eimasai, when is this true? Shahaisa Sham v'kibla aleh. It's true when she was there and there was an explicit acceptance. Again, she was mochel the shibud explicitly. Aval haisa sham v'lo kibla aleh. But if she was there and there was no explicit acceptance, or kibla aleh v'lo haisa sham, or let's say there was an acceptance but she wasn't present, she wasn't there, lo of the ksubasa, she does not lose her ksuba. And clearly Rabbi Yehuda is saying that the Tanakama is saying that there has to be an explicit acceptance, that it's clear that she forgives the ksuba. That's when she loses the shibud on the ksuba. And the Gemara says, tiyufta dekula, should we say that this is a refutation of the interpretation of all of the Amoraim, the three Amoraim on the previous Amud? And the Gemara says, tiyufta, indeed, this is a refutation of those explanations. And the Rashbam explains, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Imasai Rabbi Yehuda says, when Divrei Tanakama Asur Rabbi Yehuda Lefrushe, that Rabbi Yehuda is coming to explain the Tanakama of the Mishnah. Lefrushe beBraisa, he's explaining in this Braisa the Tanakama of the Mishnah. Heichi Dami Hai Kasav La Karka Kolshu, what is the case in the Mishnah where he writes her and he gives her a little bit of Karka to Kamar Tanakama of the Ksubasa, that again the Tanakama says she loses her Ksuba. Umuki La Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda explains, he says the case is B'di'ika Kabbalah, the case is where there was a clear acceptance on her parts. V'haisa Sham B'shah Shachal Glavanav, and she was present when the land was given to the sons. They came in the Haisa Sham V'kibla, since she was there and there was an acceptance. Chazak ein adam rotza shenosim mamono b'fanav u'machzik es hamatana l'kaima elim kein osa b'leiv shalim. There's a chazaka, there's a presumption that what she said she clearly does intend, and again she's forgiving the shibud that she has to collect the ksuba from this particular property. U'chidamar b'Sanhedrin emasai Rabbi Yehuda l'farish divrei chachamim. This is in Sanhedrin, and explains that Rabbi Yehuda here is explaining the chachamim of the Mishnah. Aval Haisa Sham v'lo kibla, let's say she was present but didn't accept. Elohaisa Shosakas, she was just quiet. Or Kibla level Elohaisa Sham, she accepted it but she wasn't there. Then Matzi Lameimar, she could say Nachas Ruach Hasisi Labali, I was just trying to make my husband happy but I wasn't serious. Alma, in any case, what do we see? Alma mid Rabbi Yehuda Shaminon, we see from Rabbi Yehuda the Tanakama Ksiva v'Kabbalah boy, that the Tanakama requires again that it be written and also that there's a clear acceptance. And the Gemara continues, Amar le Rava le Rav Nachman, Rava said to Rav Nachman, Harav, Hashmuel, Harav Yossi, Reb Chanina. We have the explanation of Rav and Shmuel and Reb Yossi, Reb Chanina. Again, these are the Amoraim that were just refuted, that explain that Mishnah in Meseches Peya. So Mar Svira le, what does the master hold? Amar le said to him, Shani Omer, I say, Kevon Shasa Shutuf Ben Habonim, once he made her a partner with the other sons of the Ksuba, so she does lose her Ksuba. And the Rashbam explains, Shutuf Ben Habonim, if he made her a partner among the sons, sons, shekasav lo nami karka kolshu, meaning he gave her a little bit of land, he gave them the property, but gave her a little, machla, so then she has forgiven the shibud, velo matzerchinon l'chol hanach kochos de amri hanach amoroi la'el. We don't need everything that the Amorim said above, ela b'chsiva bi'alma of the, rather just the ksiva alone is enough that she loses her ksuba. Ki Rabbi Yossi, the point is he's following Rabbi Yossi over here. The sagi la b'chada, Rabbi Yossi holds it's one or the other. O kabbalah o ksiva, either it's explicit that she forgives the ksuba, or the ksiva makes her lose that ksuba. And the Rashbam continues, umatzasi b'tshuvas Rabbeinu Shlomo Zikaini Zatzal, and I found in the response of Rashi, my grandfather, the Rav Nachman koi b'shitas Shmuel Rabbo, that Rav Nachman is actually following Shmuel over here with this answer. To ukma b'mechalik lefonea v'hishosakas, because Shmuel on the previous summit, he's the Amora that said that the cases where he's distributing it in front of her, she's present, and she's silent, and the silence is interpreted as the fact that she's mochel the shibud. V'avagav dos zvine le'el. Now, even though we just refuted, we just asked question on all the Amoraim, including Shmuel before, hani mili mishum de Tanakama, kabola nami boy, that refutation was because the Tanakama were saying, holds it needs to be explicit that she accepts this. Miul Rabbi Yossi, but nevertheless, according to Rabbi Yossi, the Savar, the Sagile b'choda b'chsiva, below Kabbalah, Rabbi Yossi is the one that says that even one is good enough. Let's say you have ksiva without Kabbalah. So ikol mefrach nami kedeleil. So we're still really back to the same question we asked on the previous Amud, just it's not a question on the Tanakama, it's just the same question on Rabbi Yossi. Mishum dechasav lakarka kolshu of the ksubasa, just because he gave her a little bit of land, she loses her ksuba. B'tzarach l'shnui l'Rabbi Yossi, and so you're going to have to give the same kind of answers according to Rabbi Yossi, and you'll have to say b'mechalik l'fanev ishosakas. Let's say Shmuel's answer, that Shmuel answered, Shmuel explained that he did it in front of her and she was silent, and that's how the silence is interpreted. For Rav Nachman Rabbi Yossi sviralein, Rav Nachman is following Rabbi Yossi, the sagi lo b'chsiva b'kabbalah, that it's sufficient if either it's written in this fashion to her or there's an explicit acceptance by her. V'keven the mechalik l'fanev ishosakas, and since he did it in front of her and she's silent, lafikach mocheles, that shows that she was mochel, she forgave the shibud that she had for the ksuba. Sharei asa shutef l'chalka chelik b'fnei atzma bein habanim, because now she's a partner, she's getting a portion just like the sons. Umigo dechashiva lekechad mibanav l'chalik nami lochilek kemoshe mechalik levanav misratzalo mocheles hashiva min anachasim. And since again he's considering her to be like one of the sons, and she's getting a portion, she's mochel the shibud that she has on the rest. Rav Nachman lefaresh tam ledivrei Shmuel asan. Rav Nachman here is coming and explaining the reason. He's coming and going and following and explaining the reason of Shmuel. And the Gemara continues, Itmar Nami was stated as well. Amar Rav Yosef bar Menyume, Amar Rav Nachman. Rav Yosef bar Menyume says that Rav Nachman says, Kevon shasa shutaf ben abonim, once he made her a partner among the sons of the ksubasa, again, she loses her ksuba. And the Gemara continues, Boy, Rava asked the following question, Bebori heich, what would happen if this exact same arrangement happened, but he was not a shchiv merah, the husband was not on his deathbed, rather he was a healthy individual? And the Gemara explains the question. Mi amrinon, do we say, b'shchiv merah, hu de yoda de lesle v'kamachla, by a shchiv merah, when the husband is on his deathbed, and he gives all of the property to his sons, and he gives her a little bit of property, so now she realizes that he has no other property, he's about to die, he's not going to get any other property in the future, and so then we can interpret that she's mochel her shibud. We can say that by accepting this land, she's mochel the shibud she has on the other property, and therefore she will not collect the ksuba from that property. Avol bebari, but let's say he's healthy when he does this, he gives all of his property to his sons, he gives her a little property, so really she's not being mochel, because she thinks hadar kani, that he might get some property in the future, he's a healthy individual, and that's why she didn't say anything, and so therefore we can't interpret her silence that she's actually saying she's mochel the shibud. She's not mochel the shibud at all. Odilmar maybe, hashta mios Leslie, right now when he's doing this, he has no other property, and so therefore right now she's looking at a situation where she's getting a little bit of land, and the sons are getting all the rest of the land, and there is no other land, and so therefore maybe we do interpret her silence that what she's saying is she forgives the shibud that she has on that other property, and the Gemara says take it. The Gemara leaves that as a question. We don't know what the halacha would be if he was healthy. And the Gemara continues, there was somebody who said to them, Palga livras, I'm giving half my property to one daughter, half my property to the other daughter, and then to my wife, I'm giving her 1/3 in terms of the produce, not the actual property, not the land, but the produce. Ikla Rav Nachman l'Sura, Rav Nachman went to Surah, and Ola Gabe Rav Chisda came to him to ask him this question. Amar Lei said to him, Ki ai gavna mai, what would happen in this case? Meaning The halacha before was that when he gives her a little bit of land, so now he makes her like a shutuf among the rest of the children, so then we say she loses her ksuba. But here, she wasn't actually given land, she was given fruit. So the question is that the same thing? Amar Lei said to him, Hachi Amar Shmuel, this is what Shmuel said, Afilu lo hikna lo ela deka lechad lepeirosav, even if he just gave her one palm tree, that she owns the palm tree to get the fruits of that tree, of the ksuba, so that's giving her enough that she now loses her ksuba. But the Gemara continues, Amar Lei said back to him, what kind of proof is that? Amor damar Shmuel Hasam, Shmuel said it over there, it makes sense. The akni lo begufa diara, because he's not just giving her fruit, he's giving her the actual palm tree for its fruit. But over here, piruhu, here he's just giving her fruits, he's not giving her a stake in any land whatsoever. So the question is, by metaltalin, is that going to be enough? Amar Lei said to him, metaltali kamrit, oh, you're talking here about metaltalin, metaltali vadai lo kamina. By metaltalin, if it's movable objects, I certainly wouldn't say this. That's not considered to be giving her any stake, and therefore we do not assume there's any forgiveness of the shiba that she has when it comes to her ksuba. And the Gemara continues, Ahu da Amar Lahu, there was a person who said to his children, Talasa livras, I'm giving 1/3 of my property to one daughter, 1/3 to the other daughter, Utalasa li'itas, and then the last third is going to my wife. What then happened was, Shechiva chadami binse, so then one of the daughters died. Now let's say that daughter had not died, so then we would say that she forgave her ksuba from that other property, and what she got, the third that the wife got, that's all she's getting. But here you have a situation where one of the daughters died, and the question is, can she now collect from that third of the property as well? So Savar of Papi Lamemer, of Papi thought to say, Lo Shakla Latilsa, still she can only collect from the third, meaning she only gets the third that she was given and nothing further, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Kuf Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph.